iPad so that I can read all of the messages and everything. So I'm decorating a cake today, so I've got a 6-inch cake here, and it's a pretty simple design, so it's probably going to be done very quickly. However, there is some setting time in between, so I was thinking that we can do a little kind of Q&A at that point. So I need to, it's already crumb coated as you can see, just the base is bare, and then we need to do a second coat on it, which is going to be like a creamy white, and then it's got some navy blue detail on the sides, and then it's just got some gold splatter, gold leaf, and then it's got 2 toppers to go on it. One of them hasn't arrived yet, it got lost in the post, and she's resent it, and it's done as track 24, so it should come tomorrow morning, which is a little bit stressful. But one of them we'll be able to put on, and then the number topper we'll have to leave off at the moment. Oh, I'm so happy that you're live again. Thank you, I'm glad. I did get a couple of messages saying when was I going live, and I was busy doing merch designs, because I'm making all my own merch designs. I decided to do it that way because I wanted it to be like personal, so that's really exciting. I just spent the past 2.5–3 hours doing one merch design. They take such a long amount of time, but they are really like worth it in the end. So I've done one. I want to have maybe like 4 or 5, so I'm going to do another one this evening. I'm just waiting until some more people come on because I don't want to do too much before people join. This one isn't new. It was a birthday present from my brother and my sister-in-law, and it's from Etsy. It's a personalised one, so it says Sweet Things by Amy, and then it's got established 2020. But yeah, I've got quite a few aprons now. I've got about 4, I think. I want to get some more just because you go through them so much. Like, I've already got icing sugar on this, and I've only worn it today, so it's already dirty. But yeah, I'm going to make a start. I've got a giant bag of buttercream here, as you can see. It's literally bigger than my head because I'm hoping that we don't run out this time, because we did run out at some point in the last live, and I had to make some more, so I don't want to run out this time. Of the websites where you buy delivery packages. What do you mean delivery packages? Do you mean like for postals, or for postals it's just raw mail, but I don't know what you mean by delivery packages. I'm a beginner, but once the cake is out from the crumb coat, how long should the buttercream used as the final coat be in the fridge for? Basically, when can I make the buttercream for the final coat? You can make the buttercream days in advance if you want to. I literally made this about 10 minutes ago, so and it hasn't got any milk in it, so as long as you don't put milk in it, it can be out of the fridge, because once it's actually on the cake is likely to be out of the fridge. So it's only if you put milk in your buttercream that it has to like not be out of the fridge for long periods of time. Like, obviously this has been out for 10 minutes, so it's absolutely fine, but if I was going to be leaving it for probably like an hour, I would put it in the fridge. You just cling film it, but when you're doing darker colours, which we are doing one tonight, we're doing navy, you do have to put it in the fridge for a bit to develop. So whilst this is in the fridge setting, I'm then going to colour the buttercream navy, and then we can leave it to darken, because they do take a little bit longer. But yeah, you can make the buttercream. Some people make buttercream and then freeze it. I've never tried it, just because I worry that it wouldn't be right. I prefer to make everything fresh, just because when it's in the fridge it does go hard. But if you're happy to re-whip it and everything like that, then you can just redo it. I'd like to know about the packaging as well. Where do you get boxes from? I've done a video on this. If you watch the Postal 101, it's got all of my packaging in it, and then I've also done a couple of hauls. If you look through my channel, like previous videos, then you'll see all of the websites. Most of it is Cake Decorating Co. I go on about them, they're really good. But if you type in Cake Decorating Company, you can literally get colourings, sprinkles, boxes, cake drums, all of it, all from one place. For some reason my buttercream takes the whole night to harden, so what do you recommend to get it colder? Could it be in my fridge temperature? It might be that the buttercream is quite a stiff recipe. Mine is a very, like, as you can see from this, it's a very like soft recipe, because this is white chocolate buttercream, so as soon as you add the white chocolate to it, it goes a lot runnier, but because it's covering a cake, it doesn't matter. But quite a few recipes can be quite stiff, so I would say if it is quite stiff, then use less icing sugar. And then you can make it smoother a lot easier, and it will be a lot softer, and that means that in the fridge it should harden, but yeah, or it's not, yeah, so if it's not hardening, then you haven't got enough icing sugar in it, and if it is too hard, then you've got too much in it. Right, now we've got some people on, I'm going to start icing this cake. But like I say, it's a very simple one, so whilst this is in the fridge in between coats, we're going to be answering some questions, because it's a very simple design, but this bag is absolutely massive, so it's a little bit of a pain to hold. But I wanted to make sure I had enough. So I'm just coating the outside of the cake, and then we'll be scraping it. How long to wait between crumb coat and final coat to ganache? So I don't ganache my cakes. I think ganache, personally, I find that it's more common if you're using fondant, which I don't use. I just do the crumb coat and then the final coat, and that's it. And then any like decoration coats, like if, like on today's one, because we've got the navy, that's like an extra coat. But apart from that, I don't use ganache. But I usually leave it a good couple of hours. So I do the crumb coat, and then this has been crumb coated since 11 AM, and I'm doing it now, just because I like it to be nice and hard, so that when I do the final coat and I'm scraping, because a lot of the time when you're doing the decoration and the final coat, that's what takes the longest, I find. So if the crumb coat hasn't been on long enough, then it can sometimes be wobbly because it hasn't been in the fridge long enough. So if you leave it in there with plenty of time, then it doesn't matter how long you take to decorate it. So I just add milk, then should make the filling buttercream stiff. Together and not move whilst crumb coating. I wouldn't add milk. I add hot water to my buttercream if I need it a bit smoother. But if you don't need it any smoother, then you can just do butter and icing sugar. You don't actually have to add anything else. So it just depends on the consistency that you want. So I would just do trial and error. Like if the buttercream needs it, then add it in, and if it doesn't, then you don't have to. And I would say I do a filling coat on anything smaller than a 6-inch, so basically all my 4-inch cakes. So I do a filling coat in between all the layers, then I shove it in the fridge for half an hour, and then I take it out and do the crumb coat. So I literally just do in between the layers, because that means that it will get stiffer because you're leaving it in the fridge whilst it's filled, and then that stops it from wobbling. Any more news on the merch? So like I said, I don't know if you were on at that time, but I was designing one of the merch releases this evening, and it took me 2.5 hours. So I'm trying to get 5 designs ready. I will have my logo, but I wanted to have something that I designed. So I've been on Procreate and I've been designing it. So yeah, it took me 2.5 hours to do one. So however long it takes me to do a few more. So yeah, but I'm hoping that in the next couple of days. I also got my printing sheets through, because for those of you that roll the sleeves up higher, yeah, I will. For those of you that don't know, I've got a heat press and everything already, so I am going to be doing all of the merch at home, so I'm not going to be sending it off anywhere. So final coat and decoration done at the same time, or wait for the final coat to set? It depends what the decoration is. So today's cake has got navy kind of palette knife detail. So obviously I need to have this set in order to do the palette knife detail. But if you're not doing any detail on it, like if you're doing a drip, it doesn't have to be set. It will be fine if you just go straight from the final coat to a drip. But yeah, it literally depends on what you're doing. But obviously, because I want to do palette knife detail, this needs to be hard in order to do that palette knife detail. Otherwise, it's just gonna take chunks out of this white because I'm putting navy on it. How many layers is the 6-inch cake? So this is 4 layers and it's 1.5 to 2 inches each. So yeah, they're quite big layers. Some people's are 1 inch, so then you obviously need more. And then my filling is probably about 1/2 inch to like 0.25 of an inch. So that adds height. So if you're thinking that you're going to measure how tall it is, if you want a 6-inch tall cake, I've got 4 layers, so mine is about 7 inches, 6.5 inches tall. What do your parents think of your business? Honestly, I think they're happy with it. I mean, they don't really have much of a say in it. I am 21, so going on 22, so I can kind of choose what I want to do. Obviously, they were happy for me to kind of take over the kitchen, which is nice because I do have a lot of space in the house for storage. Like I have the kitchen, I have my bedroom, I have an upstairs space. So obviously they're very supportive with that, and I think they do, like they're fully, you know, with all my merch drops and stuff, that I think they're really impressed with it. So it is nice that they're supportive of it. But yeah, I mean, if I was a bit younger, they'd probably have more of a say, because it's like if you're in school or you're not in school, then, but I'm like completely finished school, so it's not like I would be doing anything else. Did you enjoy high school? Yeah, I mean, the end part wasn't really for me, so I stayed until I was 16, and then I didn't really see the need to do sixth form. I started an apprenticeship because I thought that that would be better. I mean, it earns money, whereas sixth form for me just wasn't of any interest because I didn't need to learn anything else. I just wanted to get a job. So yeah, it was enjoyable, like the years that I was there, but then I enjoyed the fact that I left and went to the council and obviously started earning money. I'm just gonna fill these holes and then I can do some more questions. Also, a tip, if your buttercream is really smooth, it means you can be really messy with the look of it, as you can see, because it's so smooth and like not stiff that it just smooths right out. Are you doing business or you're doing this as your passion only? This is a full-time business, I don't do anything else, so yeah, it's all business for me. And it didn't even start off as a passion, it was more that I left my job and I did a few weeks of baking and I thought maybe this is something that I could do, and then I started and I thought, okay, I'll carry on. It's not like I had years of like baking and stuff. In your opinion, what is better, acrylic or metal scrapers? So they both have their pros. Some are good for some things and some are good for others. So I would say that you want a metal one for any type of style, so like stripes, scalloped, like bubble scrapers like this, anything like that. I would say get yourself a metal one just because it is so much better, in my opinion. But if you're doing things like fault line, or see where you have like a half line of buttercream around the cake, or if you have the opening in the middle where you can kind of like put stuff in and it's as if it's bursting out, if that makes sense, you have a fault line on the top and bottom, then I would say the acrylic ones, because when you're doing fault line, you want something that is, one, small, because it will be half the size of this, and it's also a lot bendier, so it means that when you're doing the fault line, it's easier to kind of control. But for normal kind of scraping, I would definitely say metal ones. And if you think about it, this was £12, but I've had the same, I mean, I've got quite a few because they're all for different styles, but if I just did a straight cake, without all the different styles like bubble or striped, then I have had the same one for a year. So I mean, you don't necessarily need to be buying them all the time, you can do with just one. You said a few lives back that you found it hard to get Sugar Flare whiting. It's on Amazon Prime. It's not Sugar Flare, it's Wilton. Wilton whitener is out of stock everywhere. I mean, if it's on Amazon, I'm going to be on there ordering all of it. But yeah, it's the Wilton whitener. It's a liquid. It comes in a bottle like the Colour Flare, not the Colour Flare, the Colour Mill. It comes in a bottle like this, but bigger, but they don't currently have any, or as far as I'm aware, they don't. But yeah, I love the Wilton whitener. Once this is done, it's going to go in the fridge again, and that's when we're going to do the navy icing, and also I'll be able to answer more questions because I won't be looking away. But yeah, this will be going in the fridge in a minute. And I'm also going to show you the merch design, because I thought, considering you guys have taken the time to come to my live, I would show you one of the first merch designs, which is actually based on a cake I made a few weeks ago, which I absolutely love. So yeah, it's based on that. There we go. Right, so I'm just going to smooth out the top, but the rest of it, I'm getting buttercream all over my hands, but the rest of it is all smooth now. For Mother's Day, can you do a day in the life? I have most of my orders tomorrow, and what day is it? It's Thursday. Tomorrow and Saturday. I haven't got crazy amounts, but I think that's because of lockdown, if I'm honest. Because Valentine's, a lot of people live with their partners, so a lot of the trays that I did for Valentine's were sent to the same address as like the person they were being gifted to, whereas obviously a lot of mothers don't necessarily live with their kids, so I think with lockdown it's a lot more difficult. But yeah, I will do a Mother's Day video, but I haven't got crazy amounts. I've got about 5 or 6 orders. This is a birthday cake, so this isn't included in Mother's Day. How many cakes this size is it possible to make in a day? I've made 3 4-inch cakes in a day, and I could probably do more than that. So if you think, and 3 4-inch probably takes the same amount of time as a 6. I don't think they're any quicker, because the 4-inch you have to make sure they're not wobbly, so the kind of structure time takes longer. So I would say probably 3 maybe, or 4 with other things. And I mean, I see plenty of bakers doing like 15 cakes a week, the busy ones, so it's definitely possible to do more. And I mean, 15 cakes a week, they don't work every day, so it's roughly like 5 a day. So yeah, I think I could probably do 4 cakes, not necessarily every single day. I'd probably need a break in between so that I can do prep, but yeah, probably 3 or 4 cakes in a day I could do. How many forms did you have to send before getting your inspection? I didn't have to send any. I just did the registration form on the Gov.uk website, and that was it. I didn't do anything else. I guess it depends on your situation, because with COVID, I think some of them are doing it differently now. I've seen some people that are filling out forms now, whereas I didn't fill out any forms when I registered, just like the online form, whereas I've seen some people that have had forms sent to them and then they say, can you fill this out as a pre-inspection? But I guess it depends on the area. How many cake flavours do you offer? Is it good for a new, and how many flavours is it good for a newbie to start with? I've seen people with free up to 20 flavours offered. I have, I think, 6 or 7. I would prefer to have lots of good recipes, or less good recipes, rather than lots of recipes that, one, aren't popular, and 2, I haven't like tried and tested a lot, and that I don't necessarily like. I personally don't do recipes that I don't like myself, because obviously it's very difficult to taste test something that you don't like. So that's why I don't typically offer something that I don't like, because I can't taste test it to make sure that it's a good recipe. So I've got about 6 or 7, and they're all things that I love and I've tried and tested plenty of times. So yeah, I would say, as long as, I mean, if they're tried and tested plenty of times, then you can have 20 flavours on there, or as many as you like. I'm just going to shove this in the fridge because we've done the first layer, and then we're going to come back and do the detail. So that's what it looks like so far. I'll be back in a minute. Right, the cake is in the fridge, so it's going to be setting, so now I can answer questions. So how do you make your buttercream / frosting? Typically, obviously, depending on your flavour, it varies. So a standard buttercream recipe is usually a 2-to-1 ratio, the 2 being the icing sugar and the 1 being the butter. Some people use salted, some people use unsalted. I prefer salted because it makes it not sickly, but some people prefer the unsalted. And then you can either add milk or hot water to make it kind of like more limp if it's too stiff. I don't usually add either. I usually just add less icing sugar. And then depending on what flavour you do, you can add Biscoff spread, Nutella, white chocolate, milk chocolate, depending on what flavour you're making. But yeah, it depends on the recipe. Do you have any tips on perfecting and making cakes / buttercream? Buttercream, I'd say once you've got it down, it's very simple. You know, I do the recipe daily and it's the same. I just switch out different things, but that's kind of what I've managed to perfect. Some people don't like just doing it the way that I do it, so it's whatever works for you. Some people like adding milk, some people like adding hot water to it. I prefer not to, and yeah, I guess it's just lots of practice. Even though I didn't do much baking before I actually started the business, I've done so much practice since I've started, which was kind of because I had to, because I started the business and then I was thinking, right, I've got 3 flavours. I literally used to just do vanilla or chocolate, and that was it. Whereas now I do lemon, vanilla, chocolate, white chocolate and raspberry, chocolate and Nutella, lemon, and what's the other one? I think maybe that's all of them. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna start doing salted caramel because I've figured out how to do salted caramel icing. So it will be chocolate sponge, but salted caramel, or vanilla sponge and then salted caramel icing. What's your favourite dessert? I don't know. I mean, I don't, apart from my own products, I don't really eat much like desserts and stuff just because I get so much of it here. But probably I really do like brownies. That's why I spend so much time perfecting my recipe, because I do love brownies. I like how rich they are. Yeah, I do like blondies as well, but I think I prefer brownies just because it's chocolatey. How do you get your 4-inch cake so neat? Honestly, fridge time. That is all I can say about 4-inch cakes. Obviously, if you have the right scrapers, that helps, and the right kind of buttercream recipes to be smooth enough. You want, for a 4-inch cake, you want your buttercream to be really soft, like the recipe that I'm using today, because it's white chocolate. Anything that has a liquid chocolate rather than like a cocoa powder is naturally going to be more runny, because obviously that is a watery ingredient going into something that is stiff. So yeah, I guess it depends on the recipe, but I would say like white chocolate buttercream is really good for 4-inch cakes because it's nice and runny, or just a watery vanilla. And then what you do is you fill in between the layers first, literally bare cake, and then you shove it in the fridge for 30 to 45 minutes, and then because it's just got that in between layer that stiffens it, it acts like glue in between the layers, and then you do the crumb coat. Then it goes in for another hour to 2 hours, and obviously this isn't time that you're sat around waiting. You can go along with your daily life when it's in the fridge. So I try to do that when I do 4-inch cakes. I always do them the night before, whereas this is for tomorrow. Whereas if I was doing a 4-inch cake, I would have done it yesterday, so that I can do that crumb coat and then leave it for ages and then start it in the morning. But yeah, fridge time is the most important, I would say, because they just need loads of it, because that's what hardens it. The problem with 4-inch cakes is that they're wobbly, so if you give them plenty of fridge time, then they're not going to be wobbly. So yeah, and also not too much jam in 4-inch cakes, because if you just layer loads of jam in there, then it's just going to slide around, because jam can be very like temperamental. So again, you need to make sure that it's in the fridge for plenty of time, otherwise it will just be slipping around everywhere. Hello to anyone that's just joined. What's my favourite cake that I've made? I think I'm gonna quickly bring it up on my iPad. I think it is probably the one that the merch is based on, if I'm honest. I think my favourite has to be that one. I absolutely loved that cake. I don't know if you can't see the topper, but it was a 21st birthday cake, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to show you the first merch. I'm so like pleased with it. So I'm thinking that this will be like either on the front of a t-shirt, and then it will have like my name around it, like Sweet Things by Amy, and then I could also have it in the corner on a t-shirt and then something on the back. And I'm thinking of doing, because it's going into summer, and I said the same about when I was going to bring out hoodies. Hoodies are going to be coming in July, August, because they're not going to be needed in summer because they're so like warm. So I'm going to bring those out later on in the year, but I'm doing sweatshirts and t-shirts now, and then I'm going to be doing, instead of mugs, because again, mugs, even though you have like tea and stuff in summer, I feel like it's not going to get enough use. So I was thinking of those, you know, you see people that have those Starbucks cups, the reusable ones, and people sell those. Well, again, because I have the heat press at home and I have a Cricut and all of like the mug press, all of that stuff, I'm going to be making it all here, and I was thinking that I would get those plastic reusable cups with the straw, and then I would print my merch prints onto it, so then it could be something for summer, because you can use it as like a reusable like water bottle or cup for at home, or like for going out as well, because people use them for like picnics and stuff. So that's the plan, because it's a summery item, whereas a mug isn't that summery. So this is the first merch design. The lighting is very, very bright, so I'm going to move that so that you can see a bit better. But it's based on that cake I just showed you. So it's meant to be like cartoony, and yeah, it doesn't have any brands on it because that would be way too complicated. And I'm also not sure about like the copyright and stuff of having certain brands in designs. But I will be just having like unbranded stuff in it. But that's the first one, and then there's going to be another one based on a cake. Then I'm going to do some cupcake ones, some brownie ones. I want to try and do a cartoon of myself, and these will also be added to the YouTube. You know how you can get emojis and stickers if you sign up for channel members? So I've currently got channel members, which I wanted to address because I haven't actually gone through it. So I'm going to be... The channel members has actually changed, so you can get the custom emojis and badges on channel members. So I'm going to be uploading the merch kind of like logos, so all of that like cake and all of the other ones I make, they're going to be the new emojis on channel members. So it means that when we're on lives, you can post those images, and also just in comments on normal videos you can post them, and that's like exclusive to members. So I was going to upload them to there as well, so that if you wanted to, you can use them in chats. And the other thing in channel members is that you get 12 hours early access to new products and sales, because I have a lot of people interested in like the molds and the merch and everything like that, and because it is limited stock, because it is just me, like I'm the only person running the business and like funding it, it has to be limited to kind of like test the waters and make sure that it's the product that everyone wants. So people will get early access to sales, so anything that is like discontinued or put on sale, if it's like limited stock and it goes on sale, then you'll get notified about that. And also when I bring out new products, so if I say, right, I'm going to release at 12 PM today, then you'll get a notification at midnight the night before, and then you can go on the website and order before everyone else. So that's one of the channel member perks. And then there's also a monthly gift. So I wanted to do this because I want to do these monthly membership boxes, but I was thinking that this way you get to be a channel member and you get the gift box. So it's a monthly gift, so it can be anything from a cake postcard. So again, it will be like a postcard with the merch images on it, but I'll be having like tens of different ones because I want to have a lot of different ones, and then I can sell them as prints if people want them. Then it's like silicone molds, sprinkles, any like personalized spatulas, anything like that. So I'm planning to do like a monthly gift for, that's like the highest tier of membership. And then you also get discount codes, which it will be a maximum of 1 per month, which means that you could order something every month and get discount, and it will be between 10 and 20% off. So yeah, those are the channel memberships, and I just wanted to mention those because I know that I haven't actually done a video on it or anything, or even mentioned it, so I thought I should probably go through it. But yeah, a lot of the channel member stuff kind of goes with all of the merch shops and everything, so you can get discounts if you want to. Do you have a tutorial on how to get a striped cake? If you watch the live, obviously it's a very long video, but I do have a 4-inch striped cake. If you go back quite a few months, that will be on the channel. However, if you do want to look at how I made that one that I just showed you, the blue, brown and white stripe one, then there's a live where I did that. So if you want to go and watch that, then you can also do that, and that's basically a tutorial. It's kind of a slow version of me decorating it, so yeah, you can watch that if you want to see how it was made. Any more questions? The cake is probably going to come out of the fridge in about 15 minutes, and then we'll do the navy. So I'm just going to, while we're talking, I'm going to mix up the navy to go on the side of the cake. So I'm going to take the leftovers, because we haven't used everything that was in that bag. So we've got the bag here. I'm going to take that, and then we're going to colour it navy. So I'm just squeezing it into the bowl because it's a lot easier to mix it when it's in the main KitchenAid bowl. I've managed to just get buttercream all over my charging lead, which is great. Right, I'm hoping that this doesn't take too long to develop. We will have to see. I haven't tried this before because it's colour mill. It's the navy colour mill. It's royal blue, so we will see how good it is for one, and also how long it takes to develop, because it's quite a light buttercream. Obviously it's white because it's white chocolate. It's not like I'm using a milk chocolate recipe. I've got buttercream on here already. There we go. Right. don't think I've taken the seal off of this. So, a warning about these, the little mini bottles of Colour Mill, they are so hard to open. I literally had to cut through it with a knife when I opened the black one, because this little seal that they've got on it, it just doesn't come off. I don't know why they've made it that airtight. It's so painful to actually try and get off. This is really saving me whilst making lecture notes, making it a bit less painful. Oh, well, I'm glad that it's something interesting to watch. I mean, I never went to uni, so I don't even know how bad making lecture notes are, but I can imagine that they're not that fun. I'm gonna have to get something sharp to open this because I'm not gonna be able to without it. Right, I've got a very sharp knife, so be careful if you're doing this at home, because you don't want to cut yourself. I nearly did. Right. I'm hoping that that works, because I've managed to pierce a little hole in it. So let's hope that this works, because I can't get it all the way off. There we go. Right, the moment of truth. Right, so we definitely need a lot more. I might have to mix it with the Pro Gel, because the Pro Gel is quite strong. I'm also going to add a tiny bit of icing sugar to this, just to stiffen it up a little bit, because when you're adding a liquid colour, it's naturally going to make it even more watery. And I might add a tiny bit of black just to bring a little bit of darkness to it. Right, so I'm just adding Pro Gel, and this is shade Navy Blue. I'm trying to finish off my hygiene certificate. It takes so much longer than they suggest. I think it depends. Mine I did in about 3 hours. But the way that I do it, I don't know if anyone else did this, but I prefer to make notes. So what I did is I went through every single slide, which is why it probably took me 3 hours, and I did bullet points on all the key topics. So I just wrote bullet points on like things that I would think would answer a question, and then when the answer came up, I just had a bullet point ready to answer it with. So I would say write notes, and then you're not having to remember it, because no one is going to remember that amount of information. No one, because there is so much information in such a short amount of time. So I would say to write notes, and then you can just answer them as you go along, and hopefully it won't take too long, because yeah, I don't think mine took too long, not like long enough where it was kind of painful. Right, I'm adding a tiny bit of icing sugar just to help stiffen it up a little bit. I've just got it all over my hand. I always do that, it's because I'm not using the machine. Whenever I'm not using the machine to do the icing, I always get it everywhere because I'm not concentrating. Right, yeah, me too, probably making more notes than necessary, almost done. Yeah, it's good to write the notes, because what you don't want to get, which I did the first time, and then I soon went back and just wrote notes on everything, is I got through the first like questions and I just thought I can't remember, because my mind just went blank. So I wrote notes so that I could just refer back to them. And I also think if you're stressing about getting it done, then that can make it take longer, because you're trying to make sure that you've got that right answer. but a lot of the stuff, I think the marking scheme, I can't remember whether you have to get 100 out of 100 or not, but yeah, hopefully you'll get it done tonight and then it's over and done with, because once it's done you've got it. So once it's done you can forget about it, because you'll have the certificate and everything for it. Right, so this has made it a bit stiffer, so that's good, as you can see. So I'm going to add a bit more of the navy to it. This is the Pro Gel Navy. Right, so then we're going to add a bit of royal, and then I'm also going to add a tiny bit of black, but a very small amount. There we go. Right, I'm going to need to leave it to develop a little bit, but I think we definitely need a little bit more colour. I'm going to try a little bit more black, because the black seems to be deepening it. And then the last bit of royal, and then I think I'm going to put it in the fridge to develop. Oh god, I put way too much. That's the only thing, the Colour Mill bottles, because they're in little bottles, it's a lot easier to put too much in. Right, so we're almost there with that colour. Darker colours always take a little bit longer. I was going to prep this earlier, but I was way too engrossed in my merch, so I didn't actually end up making it earlier, but it's fine. So this is the colour that we've currently got. I want it darker, obviously, because it's like a royal blue, so I'm going to shove this in the fridge. So I'm going to shove it in this fridge here. And I'm just going to wash my hands because I've got food colouring all over them. Right, so does anyone have any questions? Because you have my full attention now, because I have mixed the buttercream, and that's pretty much the main part of the cake that we have left. We just need to put the navy on, and then we're going to be splattering gold paint and gold leaf on it. Do I have it here? This is what I'm using. So I got this off Amazon, for anyone that's wondering. So I get my gold leaf off Amazon, and this is the colour that I use. I recently ran out of this gold paint, so I had to order more. So I think this might actually be a bigger bottle. Oh no, it's the same. So this is a silver that I've got, and it's metallic light silver. And then this is the new one. It's the metallic light gold, and it's by Rainbow Dust. That's the brand. And yeah, you can get it on Amazon, and it's just a paint. And what you can do is, if you pour it into a little dish, something like that, then you just stick your paintbrush in it, and then you flick the paintbrush, and it will splatter it all over the sides of the cake. So that's the way that I get splatter, which you'll see in about 15 minutes once hopefully that right. So I'm going to move some of these bowls whilst yeah. So yeah, like I say, if anyone has any questions, please ask them now, because as soon as I get the cake out, I'm going to be busy doing that. But I think I've answered everyone so far. If I haven't answered your question, then just like re-comment it, because I might have missed a few people's in all the comments. I'm going to put these over by the sink to be washed up. That scraper I don't need anymore, because I'm going to be using a palette knife now. So for this, once you're done with your scraper, you can wash it up, and then we want like an angled palette knife. So I'm going to be wiping this down, and then I'm going to be using that, so you see how it's angled. And I also need a smaller version of this. Let me just put this by the sink. Right, I've got the palette knife, which I'm going to be using for the sides of the cake. So with either the 4, 6 or 8 inch cakes, are they all 4 layers high? Honestly, it depends on the recipe that you're using. Some of my cakes are slightly thinner, some of them are bigger. I find that chocolate cake rises really well. So my chocolate layers are usually 2 inches each. So I either do 4 layers and it's a bit taller than some of my other cakes, or I do 5 layers of other recipes. So I think it's the Biscoff is usually a bit thinner, so I do 5 layers of Biscoff, and then the vanilla is very similar to the chocolate. It's either like 1.5 or 2 inches, so then I add 4 layers of that as well. It just depends how much your recipe rises. Some people's chocolate cakes might rise less than mine if you're using a different recipe. So yeah, I would just say until it gets as tall as you want it to be. I like mine very tall. If some people do cakes that are a lot shorter than mine, so then you won't need as many layers, but I prefer them to be quite tall. Are you going on holiday this year? I've got 2 holidays to the same place. So I'm going to Weymouth, which is in England. One of them is in July, and then one of them we go to every year for my birthday. So we stay in a hotel and we usually go out drinking, but obviously last year we couldn't do that because of COVID. So last year we went to Splashdown, which is like a water park, and then we went out for a meal and did like bowling and stuff like that. So we're going to do the same thing this year because we actually really like that. And then instead, I think on one night we're going to go out drinking, but not like crazy drinking. So we've got those 2. And that's in England. And then depending on what the situation is with travel, I'm hoping to go on holiday in November. Me and my sister want to go to Australia because it's their winter now, and then it's going to be our summer, and then their summer is our winter. So like November, December is when it's their hottest season, so we want to go in November, December because it'll be nice and hot. I do really want to go back to America, so depending how busy I am, like whether I have time to take time off, I would quite like to do 2 weeks in America, but because it's so far away, same with Australia, you do have to take a bit more time off, whereas if you were going to like Spain, you could just have a week off or a weekend even, but because they're so far away, you do have to have a lot more time off. So it's whether I can afford to be like taking that time out if I've got like orders on those dates that I plan to go. So yeah, is anyone else going on holiday this year? Do you have anything booked already? So we've got 2 booked already, which is to both places in England, so we thought that was pretty safe if anything does change. Whereas we didn't want to book anything abroad just in case things change. And it's also whether the country will let you in, because I know Australia is quite strict generally, and then obviously due to COVID they're even more strict, so we don't know whether they'll be letting people in by that point, or because currently their borders are closed. So That's why we didn't want to book yet, because we weren't sure what the situation was, and we thought there'll be plenty of like last minute holidays. But yeah, is anyone else going on holiday? Because I'm really nosy, so I'd quite like to know as well. But yeah, I've got lots of holiday plans. I feel like my holiday plans have been like sped up because of COVID. Like I want to do more holidays because of COVID. And we're also going to Reading Festival. I don't know if people know what that is. It's a very popular festival in the UK. I don't know where people are watching from, but in the UK it's a very big festival, and Post Malone's going to be there, so we bought tickets for that. They were like £90 for the day, but yeah, I'm very, very excited for that because I love Post Malone. So yeah, that's slightly off topic, but considering no one had answered anything, that's why I thought I'd let you know. You went to Reading 2019, it was so good. Yeah, I love it. I went in 2018, and I also went in 2015 when I was at school. I've been quite a few times now, but yeah, I absolutely love it there. My sisters have never been, so I'm going to be taking them for the first time because they haven't been to Reading, whereas I've been twice already. You saw Post Malone in 2019. I'm so jealous because he doesn't do UK things. Any advice on how to make buttercream? I'm so confused. It's literally, buttercream is just a 2-to-1 ratio of butter and icing sugar. Like half the butter as you use icing sugar, and then you either add milk or hot water or nothing to make it a little bit softer if you need to. Otherwise, if it's too stiff, you can just add less icing sugar. Yeah, and that's literally it. You're booking to go to Center Parcs and Germany. I've heard of Center Parcs, but I don't know what it is. And I've been to Germany a couple of times, and I do really like it there. The council hasn't confirmed if they're doing the festival yet. I would assume that they have been informed more than maybe we have, because otherwise I don't think they'd be able to sell tickets for it. From what I heard, because of the schedule with like the vaccinations and stuff, they're allowed to do festivals because it's outdoors and because we should have done our vaccinations by then. But I mean, if it changes, it changes, but I just like the idea of having something to look forward to. Do you have, where did you get your brownie trays? Have you got a link for them? So if you go to, I have the link in all of my YouTube videos because I get it asked so many times. If you go to probably anything before the kitchen tour, because I don't think that's got it in it, any video before that, just go in the description and the link is in there. It's similar to Butlins. Again, I've never been to Butlins, but I've heard so much about it. Oh yeah, so I know what Center Parcs is. Has it got like roller coasters and stuff, I think, from what I have read. I think it's got roller coasters or like a theme park. But yeah, when I was in school, loads of people used to go to, what was it? They used to go to Butlins, and I would always go to Weymouth, and everyone used to always go to Butlins, and I never went. But yeah, maybe when I have kids I'll go, because people always say that it's really good, but I've never been. No worries, I'm happy to give the link. Yeah, so anyone that is curious about like packaging, brownie trays, anything like that, typically it's in the description of the video, especially if it's a haul. When I do haul videos, I usually link stuff, or like at least the website, so you can then go back to that video and just check the description, it will be in there. So I'm going to check on the buttercream to check whether it's developed. Fingers crossed it has. We might have to add a little bit more navy to it otherwise. It has not got much darker, only a tad. I'm going to add a little bit more navy to it. So I'm adding the Pro Gel one. Because it's a gel, it's less watery, so it won't change the consistency as much. Whereas the Colour Mill colours they're not water-based, but they're very runny, so they typically make your mix a bit runnier. I've added a tiny bit of black, and we're going to see a little bit more black. This is the fun of making dark coloured buttercream. It's just trial and error until you get the colour that you like. And I've managed to get black food colouring all over my hands. Right. So that's a little bit darker. I want to add a bit of the royal blue just to give it that royal colour, because navy is obviously a different shade to the royal blue, so you just want to make sure that you're keeping that like vibrant blue. Right, so that is the colour that we've got. So I'm going to put it there. Every time I add food colouring into my chocolate, it goes hard. So the only food colouring which you should really use for chocolate is non-water based. This is covered in black colouring, but maybe I can pick up one that doesn't have as much. So Colour Mill is not water based, it's oil based, and it says it on the back. So it's for chocolate, whereas all of these other ones which I have on that rack behind me, they are gel based, which has water in it, and water makes chocolate seize. So it's the same as if you're melting chocolate in a bowl that has a little bit of water in it, even like the slightest bit of condensation or anything like that. If you do that, then the water will make it seize and it will go rock solid. So you can't use anything that has water in. I sometimes get away with it depending on how much you need to add. So if it's a light colour, like a pink, and you're doing like a pastel pink, then you can get away with using a gel based one which has water in it because you're using so little. But when you're doing dark colours like this, you can't use gel ones because you need too much to make the colour, so then it won't work. So yeah, you want to use ones without water. So you just check the back. Don't buy any from a supermarket, because any from a supermarket will have water in because they're cheap ones. You always have to order online when you're going for non-water based ones. How is the merch coming? I don't think you're on here, but I have done one of the designs. It took me 2.5 hours, and that's the first one that's going to be used on the t-shirts, and also if I make cups. So this is for Daniel, just to re-show anyone that missed it, but this is the first merch design, so it's like a cartoon version of a cake that I've done. So yeah, it's got the bottles on the top, and it's got Lindt, Kinder, that's the kind of theme of it. Right, back to the questions. So, do you have a video on buttercream? I don't, just because it is, I don't want to say simple because I know that people do struggle with it, but it's just something which I feel like wouldn't be a very long video, which is why I haven't done it. But honestly, you literally just make sure that your butter is soft, either at room temperature. I usually microwave mine for about 45 seconds, just because I prefer to do that. Some people don't microwave theirs at all, but I microwave mine, and then you literally just whip the butter until it's a little bit pale. Then you add in the icing sugar a little bit at a time, not like too much at a time, and then you mix that all together. And then depending on the consistency, if you like it, if you don't like it, then you just either add milk or hot water, or if you don't need anything to kind of soften it up, then you don't need to add anything, and that's literally it. You can put it straight on your cake. If you want to add like flavourings like vanilla extract, anything like that, then you can add that. If you want to do any kind of like Biscoff spread, then you need to look up a recipe, because the ratio of butter to icing sugar will change when you're doing a flavoured version. So like Biscoff, a lot of the time you use very little butter because you use so much Biscoff spread, which kind of acts as a butter. So yeah, if you're doing a flavoured one like that, I'd recommend looking up a recipe, because it can change the ratios of it. Could you do a video on taxes? I will be very soon, because I have to do my taxes this year, my tax return, which is in 3 weeks. So from the 1st of April is when I need to do mine, because I'm like a new business this year, whereas if you've been registered for years, then you submit it by April, but if you're a new business, then you register in April. So yeah, I'm going to be doing all of my taxes and everything then, so I will do some videos on it, because I'm going to be just as confused as you guys are. I did do tax when I did my accountancy qualifications, so I know how to fill out a tax return, I know how to keep logs of everything, which is how I created all those spreadsheets, but I still need a little bit of help when it comes to filling it out, because it is a bit complicated. Do you like buttercream or fresh cream? I don't use any cream, like fresh cream, at all. When you use fresh cream, you have to let your inspector know, the person that inspects your house, you have to let them know, because there's shorter lives on cream. Cream goes off very quickly in terms of like the labels on the packaging, so you have to make sure it's always in date, obviously. Whereas butter can last for a whole month, whereas cream does not. And also it doesn't last very well out of the fridge, so you have to make customers aware that they can't keep it out of the fridge for very long, because I think it's 4 hours that you can have fresh cream out the fridge, and I'm not sure if that includes your decorating time, whereas a buttercream cake you don't have to worry as long as it doesn't have milk in it in the icing, which is why I don't add milk to it. So yeah, I personally don't like using fresh cream, I prefer the taste of buttercream, but again, it's each to your own. Have you ever done a geo cake? I haven't. Is that the ones with the rocks where you cut out a bit? I really want to do one of those. I might do it as like a cake dummy, because I'm planning to do a few dummy designs, and then I can take photos for my website, because I want to do a few like wedding-ish cakes. So I was thinking that I might do a geo one where I can cut out the side of the dummy and then use that, because I'll be using what do you call them, polystyrene cakes, for those of you that don't know. Whenever I do like promo ones, I always use the dummy cakes. Did you see Finch Bakery have a book? I can't wait to get it. Yes, they've got pre-orders out now for August, but I kind of didn't want to pre-order for that long away. But yeah, they've brought it out for August, so that'll be very exciting when that comes out. Did you use Procreate? Yes, I did use Procreate. I bought it because you have to pay for it, and then I bought extra brushes as well, because you can buy extra brushes so that you can do different things on it. But yeah, it took me 3 hours to do, but I feel like now that I've done it once, I've kind of got the knack for it. But what I did is I drew a kind of template first, because you can do all the layers on Procreate. It's really good. I mean, it is very complicated, but because you can do the layers, it means that you can kind of draw a sketch, and then you can paint over that to create your design, and then you can get rid of the sketch because it's a layer. So I like the way that it works, because it's all done in layers. Where do you buy macaroons and meringues from? I don't use meringues really, ever, but if I'm buying macaroons, it's always M&S, just because I like the flavours that they do. How much butter and icing sugar would you need for a 6-inch cake 3-tier? Do you mean 3-layer, or, because I would say tiers is like that cake that I've just done and then another cake on top. That's usually what tiers is. If you mean layers, as in layers of cake, it's very difficult to know. If I'm honest, I usually wing buttercream, because it's so easy to make, or like quick to make, that I would rather make too little rather than too much. So I usually do a standard recipe of 500, but obviously depending on what flavour you're doing, you'll need a different amount of icing sugar, because if you're using Biscoff spread, if you're using white chocolate, then that will change the ratios. But I usually go for roughly about 500 grams of butter, and then whatever the ratio is of icing sugar, and then if that's too little, then I just make more. So yeah, I don't have an exact amount, because certain flavours take more, certain flavours take less, and obviously depending on how detailed the cake is and the design that it's got on it, that will obviously take more. How many layers have you done on a cake? I usually do 4 layers typically for cakes, but if it's a 2-tier, then it's between 8 and 10, depending how tall each tier is going to be. For cakes with toys on, do you get the customer to provide them? I either get them to provide it, or I order it for them and add it onto the price, because it's easier for me to order it to my home address rather than they order it to theirs and then they have to give it to me. So any toppers and things like that, I always order to my address and then I just add it on because it's easier for me. But you can get them to provide it. When it comes to alcohol, you always have to get the customer to provide it unless you have a license to sell alcohol, because otherwise you're not going to be IDing someone when you're putting alcohol on their cake. So that's why you need to get them to provide it, because for them to buy it, they must be of age. So in turn, that doesn't mean that you're going to be in any trouble. Whereas if you provide alcohol, then you can't guarantee that it's going to someone that's of age and like legally allowed to have it. What kind of cake is your favourite that you've done? So my favourite flavour is white chocolate and raspberry, which is the one that we're doing today. I love this flavour, it tastes amazing. I just like the white chocolate buttercream opposed to standard vanilla, and I'm not really big on double chocolate cake. And probably my favourite that I've ever done is, like I say, the one that is for the merch, which is that blue, brown and white striped drip cake with the alcohol bottles on it. I really like that one. Yeah, I think that's probably my favourite. My new favourite is going to be my birthday cake, because that's going to be 3 tiers, which is, for those of you that don't necessarily reference tiers in the same way that I do, 3 tiers is like 3 cakes on top of each other. So it's going to be a 8-inch, a 6-inch and a 4-inch, and I think 2 of them are going to be dummies, so it's not actually cake, it's just for the look. But it's just so that it can look extravagant, and you can have lots of different styles on it, so you can have different scrape designs on it, and it just looks very nice doing it like that. Not sure if you're familiar, but Adobe Illustrator is super for designing anything. I have used Adobe Illustrator, but I couldn't get on with the way that it was laid out. I do just prefer the way that the Procreate is laid out, and I like all the additional like brushes and stuff that you can buy for it, so that's why I did it that way. What kind of music do you listen to whilst baking? I have a current playlist, and it's like called current because I change my playlist so often, but it's very broad. I have like so many different types of music that I listen to, but I would say that a lot of it is, let me bring it up. It's like, a lot of it is kind of TikTok music, because I do like TikTok, but there's a lot of Post Malone on there. I like this person called Role Model. There's like dance music on there. Yeah, there's a lot of Post Malone on there, but there's also a lot of like new music on there. People like Ian Dior. Yeah, I don't know if people would know these people, so it depends whether you're kind of into TikTok. Otherwise, I will just be saying a load of names that you don't necessarily know. But yeah, I really like that style of music. So, what do you do to make a basic sponge cake? Do you mean in terms of recipe, or do you just mean to make it? I have like strict flavours, so I don't know what you mean by basic. I have vanilla as my like standard, like that's the simplest one I do, which is the vanilla with vanilla buttercream if people don't want jam. But yeah, I don't share like specific recipes. in terms of like measurements and stuff, apart from Buttercream because that's pretty universal. But recipes in terms of like actual flavours of things I don't share. But Buttercream is like a universal recipe, so right. Can you bake a triple chocolate cake, please? I love your videos. Yes, maybe. I will see. I have some cakes upcoming, so what I might do is I might do a video of one of them. Because I've got 2 cakes next weekend, I might do one live and then one video, so like you get to see the whole process in one of them, and then one of them you just get to see the decorating. Do you use any particular payment methods such as SumUp? I only use SumUp for markets, where it's like a card machine. I don't use that for like typical orders. People either PayPal me the money or they bank transfer. Can you say hi Ether? Is that right? Did I say that right? I think I recognise the name because someone at my old work had the same name. I think it's Irish. Is that right? Either Irish or Welsh. One of the two. I might be getting that really wrong. Yeah. What butter do you use for buttercream? I use salted because, and it's like any brand. It's not really one of those ingredients which is vastly different when it comes to, yeah, it's Irish. Yeah. My old manager was Irish as well. But yeah, when it comes to butter, the brand doesn't change it too much in my personal opinion. I've never found that buying more expensive butter or buying cheaper butter makes any difference, so I just buy what is available. But I always get salted because that makes it not as sickly. But if you like the sickly taste of buttercream, especially when you're doing things like white chocolate, because the white chocolate is very sickly on its own, so if you then add that to an unsalted buttercream, then it's going to make it even more sickly. But certain recipes you can get away with using unsalted if the other ingredients aren't going to make it sickly. Ooh, we're getting darker. There we go. Yeah, so I am going to bag this up, and what you want to do is when your icing is developing, if it's developed to a colour which you like, which it currently has, obviously when it goes on the cake and then it goes in the fridge to set, it will get darker whilst it's on the cake. It doesn't just have to be dark whilst it's actually in the bowl. But when you start mixing it, it naturally gets lighter. That's why everyone tells you to mix for ages to get white buttercream. So what you want to do is you want to be really careful when you're putting this into a piping bag, because every time you spoon it, it's just going to get lighter and lighter. Do you think you'll ever venture into selling savoury baked / foods? I won't, because you have to have different like regulations for it. So cakes are considered to be low risk, but normal food is considered to be more high risk. So if you have any meat in your kitchen, any fish, anything like that, then it's considered more high risk. So you have to, 1, alert your council if you're changing, and 2, there's like different regulations to follow. So I think I wouldn't bother because it would be more hassle. I'm quite happy just doing all of the cakes. In terms of savoury bakes, you can do things like scones, anything like that within this same like kitchen with all the same regulations, but as soon as you start going to anything with meat or like sausage rolls, anything like that, then it gets a bit complicated. Thanks so much for showing your Safe Food Better Business video, it helped a lot. Thank you, I'm glad it did. I got so many questions about it, and I'm in a lot of Facebook chats which are like baking related and like fellow businesses and stuff like that, and so many of them were putting on there that they were really struggling with their Safe Food Better business, and I thought, well, I found it relatively simple, but that's only because I missed a lot of stuff out and I did some research on like what you can and can't include. So I managed to not include half the pages which weren't relevant, so that made it a lot easier. But that's why I did the video on it, because I knew that a lot of people were struggling with it, because it is very overcomplicated for what it is. For, you know, home bakers, they need to make a separate version because the one that they have on the website, which is just a standard version, it's way too overcomplicated. A lot of the pages aren't needed. So, right. Vegetable shortening for buttercream. Personally, if you don't need it, then don't use it. It's the same with anything. It's exactly the same as people that use milk in their buttercream and people that use water. I don't need it in mine, so I don't use it. I don't really know how vegetable shortening works, so I wouldn't want to use it because I don't know how that affects like the shelf life of your buttercream, anything like that, and like the texture. Yeah, I don't really know what it is, if I'm honest. But yeah, I've never thought to put it in there because I didn't need to. I'm just getting my piping bag ready. I could really do with a cup of tea. It's 9:45. I am just putting the buttercream into the piping bag. Where did you get your piping bags from? They're from Amazon. I get everything from either Amazon or eBay. Literally, if you want to know where anything is, typically it's from those two places. So yeah, I usually get it from there, and it's just, I think they're called industrial piping bags, and they're just a big roll of blue piping bags like this. You get, I think I've got like 200 here. And I think they're about £7. They're really reasonable. I'm going to put this over here because I don't have space on this worktop. Right. Right. You're making a cake for your son's birthday next week. Oh, that's lovely. How old is your son going to be on his birthday, if you don't mind me asking? I just love birthday cake. Oh, he's going to be 5. Well, I hope the cake isn't too stressful for you and that he has a lovely birthday. Yeah, I love making kids' cakes. TRX is a great option for vegan buttercream mixed with vegan butter and icing sugar. I believe the consistency is exactly the same as usual butter, only combats the sweetness. Oh, okay. I know what TRX is. I didn't know what vegetable shortening was. That's why I was confused. But now that I know what you are on about, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I've heard of TRX before. When I make vegan buttercream, I use stalk because vegan like margarine is very like soft and it just makes the buttercream really limp. But yeah, I personally just use icing sugar and the stalk butter, because if you get the stalk block, not the actual like margarine tub, then the actual block of stalk is vegan friendly, and I literally just use that. I've never used anything else in it, so again I would say like I don't need it, so that's why I haven't used it. But if you do use it and you find that it's really good, then obviously you can change it. You can't find stalk block anywhere. You're in Manchester, it seems to be a sin. I usually find it in Sainsbury's and Tesco's. That's usually the places that I find it. But I am down near London, so I don't know whether there is a difference in terms of like where they stock stuff. What's your favourite dessert to make? Probably brownies. 1, they're easy, and 2, they taste really good. So they're my favourite. I need to just bring up the photo of this cake that I'm doing. So I'm hoping that I can find it. because I don't know if it's on my phone, which I'm currently filming on, so we may have an issue here. Right. I am going to see. Right. I need to check this cake, so I don't know if I can like come away from the live for a minute. I don't know if anyone knows if I can do that, because I need to check a photo, so I don't know whether I can do that whilst I'm still on here. I'm just trying to figure out how this works. Do you use vanilla essence or extract for buttercream? I use this. It's Dr. Onka, and yeah, it's just like vanilla flavouring, but it's very like watery, so you don't need as much of it. Whereas I find that the extract is very like oily, so I prefer to use this. Right. I'm gonna try something. I need to check this photo, so I'm gonna quickly jump into my photos and try and find it. So if the live cuts out, right, we're back. I've got the photo that I needed, so we're all good. Back to the chat. Have you used postal boxes from Boxmart? I haven't. I usually, my old postal boxes are from Amazon, and my new ones I won't be sharing because they're kind of like a good find. So yeah, I do like the ones from Amazon, there's nothing wrong with them, but the ones that I'm currently using allow me to put 2 in one box, which, because I have so many multiple orders, I need that. And they've also got like a little seal strip to like seal the box, so that you have to tear it to open it. But yeah, I will be keeping those a secret, just because I've shared like where everything else is from that I buy, so that's the one thing that I'm keeping a secret. So yeah, and then obviously if I find new ones that I can personalise, which I'm planning to do, then I'll share these, just because obviously if you think the more that I share them, then the more people that buy them, the more they go out of stock, and then I struggle to buy them, which is the thing that I have with the Amazon ones. I really struggle to buy them, so I had to find new ones. So that's why I'm not sharing the new ones, because otherwise the stock will be really low on them. Right, so we are going to start on this cake. So I'm going to get my little non-slip mat, so that I can move it around easily, and yeah, we're going to start on this. I'm hoping that it goes to plan. So here's the little mat that I use for my board to stop it from slipping. Right. Right, so we have the cake is out. Do you work with fondant? I've heard it's quite tricky to handle. I don't work with fondant. The only thing that I do with fondant is I do fondant toppers on like cupcakes and stuff. But apart from that, I don't work with fondant at all, just because I don't like it. I prefer buttercream. It's a lot easier to work with. Right. I'm just going around and like smoothing the top a little bit. Right. Oh, I'm so scared. I want to put this on something first, just to test the colour. I've just got a little mat so that I can test the colour out. Right, so the way that this goes is it's like asymmetric down the side of the cake, and it's kind of like palette knifed. I'm going to use a scraper a little bit, and then I'm going to add extra bits to give it a bit more like definition. So I've literally never done this design, so hopefully it goes well. I'm just kind of creating the asymmetric line so that I know where it's going. And I don't want to overcoat it because you can always add more, so where is... Right. So, as you can see, there's a lot of gaps because I want to not add too much on there. So I'm going to grab a clean scraper, and then we're going to go around and scrape the edges. There you go. Make sure that you can see. So, in regards to reducing the price of the brownies, so the way that it was on my Etsy and my website is that Etsy was £1 more expensive than my website because Etsy fees are more than the website. So that's why they were more expensive, and then that's why they've been reduced. So they now match the website, just because I kind of decided that I wasn't that bothered about the fees being different. And I've kind of felt like people that find me through Etsy and don't find my website, because some people kind of never know that I have a website, so they will find me through Etsy and buy through Etsy. I kind of thought that it wasn't fair to the people that bought through Etsy, who were paying £1 more, because especially because I do get some people that buy 3-4 trays in, so that then adds up, that extra like £1 or £2. So I just kind of decided that I didn't want to charge people more just because they're ordering on Etsy and not my website, so I've made it so that they match. That's the simple answer to it. Yeah, because I didn't want to make it unfair, like charging certain people more that are finding, because I mean, again, some people find my website and not my Etsy, like vice versa, so I just didn't think that people should pay more just because they found me on my Etsy instead of my website. So yeah, that's the reason. bowl. Fill in that gap. So the way that allergies works is that even if you don't cater for allergies, I did see a comment about this, not from the same person, but from someone else, which I need to reply to. But the way Allergens works is even if you don't cater for them, you can't guarantee that someone isn't going to order for a friend, because the problem is some people don't realise how serious their allergies are, whether it's their friend or their family member. And some people just say, like, I have people saying to me, I don't cater for allergies, and I have people saying to me, you know, but it's not severe, or, you know, they eat, what is it, like Kinder Bueno all the time, and Kinder Bueno has hazelnuts in it, and they've got a nut allergy, and they might say they eat Kinder Bueno all the time. But the problem is, the one time that they eat Kinder Bueno and they have an allergic reaction, that will be on me. So even if you don't cater for them, you always have to label, because if a mum orders for a birthday party and one of the friends has an allergy and she just assumes that, because the problem is there's some flavours which don't look like they contain nuts, and a lot of people assume that they don't. So like, I don't know, a vanilla cupcake is unlikely to have traces of nuts in it, because there's no things in a vanilla cupcake which would have nuts in, whereas a chocolate cupcake, it's likely that the chocolate will have traces of nuts. So people might assume that things don't have nuts in them when they do. So that's why you always have to label, because you don't know who the order is for. And like, I get a lot of, especially my postals, a lot of my postal orders are for friends. So you have to make it very clear about the allergies, because if it's ordered for a friend and they've forgotten that they've got an allergy, or they say, you know, oh, they eat it all the time, they eat nuts all the time, it's fine, and then the one time that they do eat nuts from your product they get ill, you just can't risk it. So you always have to label, because if you do get any kind of like claim, or you get sued, anything like that, then you can prove that you put the correct information on your bakes. Whereas if you didn't put anything on there, then they could say, well, you didn't label it correctly. So yeah, whether you deal with allergens or not, you always have to label it, because you don't know who your customer is. Right, I'm just smoothing this, and what you do is you just pipe it onto the cake. So as you can see, I've done it in like an asymmetric design, because that's the way that the design goes, and then you just scrape it until you get the desired thickness. I want it quite thin to match the design, so I'm going to scrape quite a bit more off. Hello to anyone new, we're just decorating a 6-inch cake, so we're kind of halfway through. I don't have any Allergen labels for my Mother's Day orders. I have about 8. What would you recommend I do? I would just write it on a piece of paper like you say. There's no harm in doing that because they can't assume that everyone can afford labels or that they can order them in time, because like if you run out last minute then you won't necessarily be able to get any. So people don't mind how it is as long as it is labelled on there. Right, almost at the point where I want it. Also, I don't know whether if you have a scanner, I would recommend scanning labels because you can scan them and then it will do a copy of them. Right. Are there any more questions? Right, so I think that's at a point where I like it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape off any little bits that I don't want on there, any like bits of navy that don't want to be there, basically. Right, so I'm going to move all of these bits out the way and then I'll be back and I'll answer the questions that have just come up. So I'm going to get a new spatula just so that I can scrape those pieces off. Any tips on confection making? I'd really like to go into that. If you mean things like chocolates, I would say get lots of practice. My sister tried to do, she's like kind of testing out chocolate making, and tempering chocolate is really, really difficult. I kind of half temper my chocolate, but being a baker you don't necessarily need to have it fully tempered. But yeah, it just depends. Oh, I've missed one, I think. Yeah, it just depends because you can, depending on what you're making, get away with it more, like not being fully tempered. Whereas if you're making chocolates, they definitely have to be properly tempered, and that's probably the most difficult thing. So I'd say lots of practice. One last question. Could there be any traces of nuts and contain gluten? Would I just put that there could be traces of nuts and contain gluten? You need to have like tick boxes. So, sorry, I've got a really dry throat. You need to have tick boxes, so you need to have, let me get one of my stickers, that's probably the easiest thing. So you need to have something like this. You obviously don't have to have this because you don't have any labels, but you need to put all these things down that you would have on a label. So if you just Google an allergen label, then it will come up. and you just need to tick the ones that are relevant. So eggs, fish, lupin, milk, mustard, etc. I need to get a drink. When you sent your first postal box, did you test it out on a friend first? No, I didn't. But that's just like typical me. I just kind of thought I would go for it and just send it out. I mean, I did do lots of research on how to package them and everything like that, so I kind of knew what I was doing before I sent the first one. But I think as long as you know that your packaging is good, then you're fine. Because the only thing you're really testing is the postal service, which it's going to be the same for most places. Like if they handle things with care in one area, they're going to not do it somewhere else. No, does that make sense? When it comes to like postal treats, it's pretty much the same. Like you need to package it the same wherever it's going, because it could be going everywhere in the UK. So yeah, I package all mine the same no matter where they're going, because I assume that they won't be handled with care. Not that they will, because then that means that if you put too much like safety packaging in there, then it's just going to cover it from getting damaged. So yeah, I didn't see the need to do a test run, but if you want to do a test run, then you can. Some people also do test runs for flavour, whereas I'd already kind of perfected my brownie recipe before I started doing postal, so I didn't need to test out any like flavour differences in my trays and stuff. Does it matter if you have a plastic or metal scraper? Does it make a difference? It definitely does make a difference. I personally prefer metal. I like to use plastic for fault line, so this is obviously a very tall fault line because it goes over the whole cake. But anything which is like a half fault line around a cake, I'd use a plastic one, or just small cakes. But I always prefer using metal ones. I just find that the end result is a lot neater. Right. There we go. Right. I'm going to shove this back in the fridge again. What turntable do I use? It's from Amazon. I think it was about £25, so if you just type in metal turntable, then it should come up. I'm just going to shove this back in the fridge. So, in case you're wondering, this is what the turntable looks like. So it's stainless steel, and yeah, it was £25 off Amazon. Can you post chocolate? You can post chocolate. Again, if it's tempered correctly, then you can. Obviously, if it's not tempered correctly, then as soon as it gets hot, then it's going to start to melt. So that's why you have to temper it correctly. Whereas anything that's baked, it can be at different temperatures, whether it's cold, hot. As long as it's sealed. So that's why it's easier to post things like brownies than chocolate. Right. So what I'm going to do is, with that design, I'm going to add, because I've done like the fault line kind of style, I'm going to add a few palette knife kind of splodges to make it a little bit messy. And then I'm going to be adding lots of gold paint and gold leaf as well. So that'll be the next thing that we're doing. I need a little palette knife, I think, because I think the ones that I've got are too big. So I need to find a little one. I might have one. I've got a little mini one here. and then I need some paintbrushes as well. So this is the paintbrush I'm going to be using for flicking the paint. So you want a really fluffy one that will move a lot, because then it means that when you're splattering the paint it will go and flick everywhere. If you use something that's too small, then it won't have much of an effect, but obviously depending how big whatever your splattering is, you can use different sized paintbrushes. So those are from the range, if you're wondering. These are like baking paintbrushes, so I got them from the range. What else do I need? I've got my gold leaf here, so I'm just going to open that. So this is the topper. This is one of them that's going on the side of the cake. It has got a plastic seal over it just to keep it clean, which I will take off when I'm ready to. So we're gonna take the cake back out the fridge in a minute. It only needs to set for a little bit of time, just so that we can then wrap it up with a spatula. So I've got a spatula here, and then I've got my two others, and then I've got the mini one as well, which I'll be using. Right, so where did you keep your dog whilst the inspection was taking place? I just had them in the lounge. They knew that I had dogs and they didn't actually say anything about them. They knew because I told them on the phone interview before I actually had my inspection, but I told them that I have 4 little dogs. And yeah, they didn't say anything about it. I think it's actually, sorry, I just got a message. I think it's different when you have cats, because obviously some cats obviously depend on how they're trained. I know that when we used to have cats before I even started the business, when I was a kid and we had cats, they used to always come on the worktops and like tables and stuff, so I think that's slightly different. I don't know if you have to have kind of like a plan in place for that, because they're more likely to jump on counters where there's food, whereas obviously dogs can't. So yeah, I think it just depends. But some inspectors are stricter on things than others, but mine never mentioned it. Tips for first Etsy sales. Honestly, Etsy is difficult. I did do a video on it, which I'd recommend watching because it goes into more detail than I could in this live. But yeah, just advertising a lot, like not necessarily paid stuff. I would just say try and do lots of like promotions yourself on your socials, stuff like that, and like lots of new flavours and designs, anything like that, anything to attract new people. Do you have to book an appointment for the inspection, or do they come whenever? This is a really common question. If you're having your inspection from your home address, they can't come whenever they want, because you could be out at work, you could be, you could have kids that aren't normally there. If you work during specific hours, you could have kids that wouldn't be there during your working hours, but they're there in the evening, stuff like that. So because it is your personal home, they have to let you know. They can't just turn up, otherwise there could be all sorts of problems. You could be out, you could be in bed, like literally anything. So they have to let you know, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to plan that there'll be someone home to answer the door. I'm just adding a rough layer now, because the rough layer is a lot thinner than the first layer was. So it means that because I've done the base, I can now go in with a rough thin layer. Does the inspection happen as soon as you register with the council? No, I mean my inspection was about 4 months after I registered, especially due to COVID. There's really bad delays, but it's each their own. Like some councils are really quick, some are taking longer due to COVID. It really just depends, but typically there's at least a couple of weeks before they come, and you can tell them that you're not ready. Like mine called me out of the blue because of COVID. They hadn't contacted me at all, and they called me out of the blue, and then they said like, can you do your inspection today? And I said no, like I'm not ready for it. So then they just arranged it for like 5 days later. So yeah, you can kind of be flexible to when you have it. It doesn't have to be on a specific day. It's not like the offer runs out or anything. Like if you're not free, then they'll just rearrange it for another date. Right. So I've created like the rough edges now. I need to do the gold splatter. The photo was lots of different blues, but I prefer it with just the one tone. I think it just looks better, so I'm hoping that it's how she wants it. Just trying to smooth that out there. Right, because I'm so much of a perfectionist, I'm just going over this area again just to rough the edges. Right, I'm going to put that in the fridge again, just so that it can set one last time before we do any like gold leaf or anything like that. Right, so that is sitting for the last time. Right, there we go. So, where did you get your food colouring from? You mentioned it before, but I forgot which one it was. So, the colourings that I used for this was the Pro Gel Navy Blue and the Colour Mill Black and the Colour Mill Royal. But I would say that the Royal isn't crazy pigmented, so you do need to use another colour with it. Have you ever bought any bakes from Instagram? I haven't. As bad as it sounds, I never buy any bakes because I have so many leftovers from my own. I don't buy any, but I know a lot of bakers that buy from other sellers. I do want to buy from like Isa Bakes and people like that, but I need to be like on the ball because they sell out really quickly and I'm usually busy when they're selling, so it means that I end up missing the like window to order. So yeah, I need to get an order in. There's also one person where I like a product that she does, one of her cookie boxes, but she doesn't do it every week. She seems to have stopped doing them for a while, so I'm kind of waiting for her to start doing them again because I really want to order from her. So yes, I haven't bought anything off Instagram, but I'm hoping that I can in the near future. I need to wash my hands again. I am going to So I'm just going to add a little bit of white to this and see how it turns out, because I wanted to do a few little lighter, oh I've got white all over me, a few lighter like strokes on the ombre. I'm not going to use that. What label should we put on ingredients for the inspection, just in general? So if it doesn't have a clear use by date, then you want to put a use by date on it. Some products, they are easily to rub off, so like sprinkle packets, the labels always rub off, so I always add my own ones on those. And anything that you've decanted, so for example, this is caster sugar, and then what I've done is I've got the details on the back there so that I know all of the like allergens, anything like that. So you just want to make sure that if you're decanting anything, then it has the right details on there. Right. So I've got a slightly lighter shade here, which I'm gonna use to add a little bit of detail. What kind of dogs do you have? I've got a Shih Tzu cross with a Bichon, so basically a tiny dog. Then my sister's got a little Yorkie, which again, little small dog. And then my parents have a Yorkie and a King Charles Cavalier. So, but theirs are quite old, so they always stay in the lounge. They never really come out. It's more that my dog or my sister's dog will have to go out to the toilet. So if you occasionally hear the dog flap go, that's because they obviously have to be let out. I can't lock them out for like hours. But they do go straight back out because the kitchen, there's not really much going on in here apart from me, so they always just go back to bed, so they then go back out and leave the kitchen. So yeah, that's the way that I do it, just because the kitchen, this door here, there's a dog flap, and that's the only way that they can get outside. So obviously if you have a separate door that has a dog flap, then you can let your dogs out that way. But yeah, it just depends on the house really, because if you've got other ways out, then you can let them out that way. But yes, this is the only way that we can let them out. So right, so I'm just going to get little bits of, it's very slightly lighter, it's not much lighter. To be fair, on camera it looks much lighter, so yeah, it just adds a little bit of lightness to it. Right. Just gonna. So, where do you get most of your orders, online or in real life? I don't really get any in real life because obviously it's either through Facebook or Instagram, even if it's like not a postal order. So I would say Instagram is where I get most of my orders. Yeah, I get the odd few through Facebook, but not. It's more so through Instagram just because I post a lot more on there, and like the content is different on there, so I just get a lot more orders from that. But in terms of postals, I get most probably from the website now, but I still have Etsy because I do still get some orders from there, so I like to keep it open just in case people don't find the website. So yeah, I think that answered that question. Right, I'm going to get a little bowl so that I can pour the paint into it to go on the cake, and then I can splatter it on there. How do you build a website? I did a video on my website, but I built it all myself. Some people can't build it themselves, so they pay someone to do it for them. It's just depending on how kind of techie you are as a person. I'm very techie, so I found it quite easy, but some people find it more difficult. But yeah, I do have a template of my website which I sell on my Etsy, which is literally just like a copy of what my website looks like, so that if people want to have something similar then they can. And what type of postage is best? Again, it depends on your products. I use tracked 48, but if your customers won't pay for tracked 48 because it's more expensive, then you're going to have to use something else. I used to use first class, however, the odd parcel that would take too long, you couldn't track it, so I just don't like that. Whereas I can track all of my parcels, they come in 48 hours, I don't have any issues with that. Whereas first class can sometimes take a week, and then I've got people messaging me saying, where is my parcel? So it was just too much hassle. It wasn't worth the time, so it's just better for them to pay more and then not have to worry about it. Right. On Etsy, is it better to combine postage and offer free delivery? I personally don't think it is, because obviously then it looks like your product is more expensive, whereas you can have a cheaper product and then they pay postage on top. So I personally do it that way, because otherwise it looks like your brownies are like £15–16 when in reality they're like 10–11. So yeah, I just prefer to have it separately. I'm just going to get a little bowl. Right, sorry guys, I was trying to concentrate on splattering. So, what are you doing for your mum on Mother's Day? I don't know, she's actually in the other room, so I'm going to be, I don't know whether, she's probably watching this, knowing her. But I don't know what I'm doing at the moment because I've got some orders which I need to do, so it's how busy I am with that. I've got her a gift, which I won't mention just in case she is watching. But I don't know, I might make her a little treat box, we'll see. She did fall over today when we went on our walk, so she's currently sat down in the lounge recovering because I actually twisted my ankle in the same place as where she fell, because it was a bit of like a rough road. So yeah, she currently is recovering, which isn't nice, like 2 days before Mother's Day, but hopefully she'll be feeling better soon. How often do you post on your Instagram to get more visitors and followers? I post on my Instagram every day, a couple of times a day. I post reels, stories, Instagram TVs, like I do it all because it all helps. So yeah, if I'm honest, I just post a lot. Yeah, I don't do anything in particular, but I just post a lot on there, and I find that that's what gets you engagement, and obviously having things that are interesting to look at, things that are unique, like different posts to other people are going to stand out, because a lot of the time I see stuff on there and I see 5 different photos and it could be from the same baker because they're all so similar, so you just want to be as unique as possible. Currently baking whilst watching you. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's so cool. A lot of people say that they bake whilst they watch these. Where did you get that gold paint from? It's from Amazon, and it's called Rainbow Dust. You can get it from Hobbycraft as well. I think you can probably get it from the range. This is what it looks like, and it's just metallic paint. So yeah, that is the gold paint done. I'm just going to take this glove off. So as you can see, it's all done around the outside. And now I'm going to do gold leaf, and then it's going to go in the fridge to set because that's all the decoration. There's nothing else that's going on it. There's no like buttercream swirls or anything that are going on it. Right, so I've got my gold leaf here, and this is so fiddly. If anyone has used gold leaf before, they'll know how fiddly it is. So again, I'm going to need lots of concentration for this, so if I'm not replying to questions, that's why. Right, on to the next sheet. Right, that is all of the decoration. So I'm just going to scrape the board roughly so that there isn't buttercream left on it, and then I'll give it a wipe once the cake is all set. So I just go around the bottom of the board and drag the buttercream away from the cake. Right, so the board is roughly scraped. I'm going to get a little bit of tissue just to go around the board and scrape off those marks that you can see. There we go. So this is the front of the cake. As you can see, the asymmetric goes across the front and then round to the back. So the only thing that it has, which I'll be putting on the board, is this little happy birthday disc. So I'm going to put that on the right hand side here, where the navy ends. So I'm going to pipe a little bit of blue icing there, and then we'll be finished. The top of the cake is staying as it is. There's no like toppings or anything going on there. It's a very simple design, and the other topper should be arriving tomorrow morning, hopefully. If it doesn't arrive, then I'll have to make something using my Cricut. But either way, there will be some kind of topper on there. So if you want to see what it looks like all together finally, then make sure you go and follow my Instagram, because that's where I upload all the final pictures of my cakes. And then you'll be able to see it tomorrow once I've taken like promo photos and everything with all the toppers and on nice background, all of that, rather than like within all the mess. So I'm just going to get a piping bag so that I can pipe this tiny little bit of icing onto the corner of the board to stick this little disc down, and then we'll be done. Right, so So I've just got a tiny little bit in here because we literally just need a little smidge on the board. There we go. So, as you can see, there's the little happy birthday tag in the corner there. So that's all done. So I'm going to shove this in the fridge and then I'm going to be signing off the video. I might put, see, I'm so indecisive because it's a design that I'm following, but I think I might put the odd sprinkle here and there, just because, why not? So I'm just going to put a couple of these on, not very many, but they are the Sprinkly UK sprinkles, and they're just the gold ones, just because I wanted to add a couple of these little rods, just because I think they just finish it off. And then I'm just going to put a couple of the little balls here and there. Yes, I did cover the board in white contact paper. Yeah, I cover it. I've also got a marble one coming because I want to do a marble board, but yeah, at the moment I just use plain white. Right, so I've just put very few sprinkles on there. You can see where the happy birthday is, that there's a rod and there, and another one round there. Right, so this is going in the fridge. Right. Just in case anyone's wondering, when you're doing the sprinkles, you can't do it with gloves because they won't physically stick to your fingers. So obviously my hands have been washed many times, but you're not actually touching the cake when you put them on. What you do is you stick it to your finger and you literally tap it so that it just sticks onto the cake without actually pushing it into the icing, because otherwise you won't be able to see it. So yeah, you just like gently tap it onto the outside of the cake. So I've got so much tidying up to do. It's 11 o'clock and I really want to go to bed. So I am going to sign off now because I've got a lot of tidying to do. Most of it I'm going to do tomorrow because the cake is for tomorrow lunchtime. So I don't actually need to do anything in the morning, so I can do the washing up. So what I'm going to do is tidy this space, move all the stuff that I need to wash up onto here, and then I can do that all in the morning. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you enjoyed seeing what the cake looked like. I will change the thumbnail. The thumbnail will be the photo of the final thing, but that won't be until tomorrow. So if you would like to see what the final thing looks like, because obviously I put it in the fridge, then make sure to follow me on Instagram, and then or just go onto my Instagram tomorrow, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like, kind of all professionally photographed rather than just me showing it to you. But yeah, because I'm waiting for the other topper to arrive tomorrow, and then I'll be taking all the final photos. That's why I haven't done like a little time lapse like I usually do at the end of these lives. But you kind of got to see the gist of it and obviously how I made it, so I hope it was helpful for anyone that wants to do this style, or just anyone that likes watching me do baking videos. But if you like watching these lives, then let me know, because I'll be doing them probably once a week at least, so that's the plan. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. I've got a video coming out tomorrow because it's Friday, and then another one on Sunday. So yeah, those are my new video times, and then there'll be another one on Tuesday as well as a live next week. So I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!